So Xbox just increased the price of Game Pass, and many people aren't happy. You see, as many of you may know, Xbox in the last couple of years hasn't been doing too great. They've been struggling to sell consoles, and many people have been shifting from Xbox to PlayStation. So for Xbox, one of the last few things they had going for them was their Game Pass. It was affordable and there's tons of games on it. But now the price has increased. For the Ultimate plan, it's around $30 now, which makes it really unaffordable. To pay $30 a month is kind of crazy. But that even asks a bigger question. If Xbox doesn't have the Game Pass being the most affordable deal in gaming anymore, what does Xbox have left? Like, if you think about it, Game Pass was pitched as like a Netflix of games. Pay a small monthly fee, and then we'll get like tons of games on release, like day one. And Game Pass is one of the few things that allowed Xbox to compete with the likes of Nintendo and Sony. So with the price increase, the goodwill that consumers have had for Xbox with this Game Pass has started to crack, and the future of Xbox seems to be in more trouble than ever. So today we're going to break down what's happening with Xbox, why there was a price hike, and how people are reacting, and even what this means for the future of Xbox gaming. But first, let's give a bit of context. If you're watching this video, you probably already know what Xbox Game Pass is, but there might be a couple of people out there who don't know. You see, back in 2017, Microsoft launches Game Pass as like a monthly subscription, kind of like Netflix for gaming. You pay like $10 or $15 a month and got access to a huge library of games. And you even got day one releases of certain games. But for Microsoft, this was a big gamble. It cost them a lot of money to get access to the games and to have set up all the servers and the entire system. It cost them a lot of money. But the reason they did this is because they were getting killed in console sales by PlayStation and Nintendo. So for Xbox to get more competitive, they decided to run Xbox Game Pass. And it actually worked. You see, quite a few people actually went out and bought Xboxes just for access to Game Pass and the Microsoft exclusive releases on Game Pass. But that's an issue as well. You see, in recent years, Xbox Game Pass games, especially those Microsoft exclusive games, have kind of flopped. We've had huge releases with things like Halo Infinite, which didn't do that great, or Starfield, which was a huge disaster and left many players feeling unsatisfied. And now with higher prices and with even less games, as some developers have opted to take their games off Game Pass because it wasn't profitable for them, a lot of people have felt that Game Pass hasn't been worth as much as it was before. And many people have began canceling subscriptions before this. But these new price hikes are the final nail in the coffin, and it really upset many gamers. In fact, this wasn't the first price hike in the last year or so. At the end of 2024, Xbox had increased the price of Game Pass, and now they're increasing it again, which left many people really upset. So to interrupt, I just want to ask you guys to like the video. Alright, back to the video. The price for Xbox Live Ultimate Pass has almost doubled in the last year and a half. In 2024, it was $18.99, then it went up to $22.99, and now it's going up to $33.99, which is a 67% increase just in the last year and a half. And the core plan is just as bad, with less games for even more money. But this wouldn't have been as big of an issue as it is if the Xbox Game Pass games, especially those Microsoft exclusive games, were actually good. But with so many recent flops, players have questioned if this is even worth getting. And the comments online show this. One user on Reddit commenting on a post discussing the price increases said, "Enough is enough. It's just egregious now. Stop it, get some help." Another person responding to that post said, "Completely agree. They're starting to become like EA, finding ways to take more money from people." You know things are bad when people are comparing Microsoft to EA. And it's not just Reddit. People all over the internet, especially on X, are calling this the death of Microsoft Game Pass, and many of them are canceling Game Pass. Even long-term Xbox users are canceling Game Pass and considering switching to PlayStation. I think what the situation with Xbox shows us is that people are getting tired of subscriptions. I mean, these days, it feels like you're subscribing for everything. And for gamers, it's especially so. But I also think this might be an important moment for Microsoft. This might mark the start or the beginning of the end for the Xbox platform and Xbox as a whole. I mean, I already mentioned it, but the Xbox platform and Xbox is struggling to sell consoles, and they're being outcompeted by the likes of Sony with their PlayStation, or Nintendo with the Nintendo Switch, and now the Nintendo Switch 2. And even when Microsoft tries to release good games using their newly acquired studios like Activision and Bethesda, they seem to fall short. I mean, Starfield was marked as a huge game. It was marketed to everyone as going to be a crazy game that on the likes of something like a Red Dead Redemption or GTA, but it ended up falling really short and it had no momentum at the end of the day. And Halo Infinite was supposed to be the new iteration on the huge Halo platform and the huge Halo enterprise for Microsoft, yet it didn't really do anything. Obviously, Microsoft is doing this for a reason, and they want to make more money at the end of the day. They're trying to boost their profits. And short term, it might lead to a bump in profits. But I think this is very short sighted, as long term, it's going to do serious damage to the Xbox brand. I mean, we're already seeing people mention how they're going to quit Xbox, and the Xbox subscription website went down or is facing challenges because so many people wanted to cancel their subscriptions. I'm not sure what's going on there at the Microsoft HQ, but I'm assuming they have a plan for Xbox, for the future of Xbox, because I'm afraid that Microsoft might be losing one of the few edges they have over their competitors like Sony. Sony has a comparable Game Pass plan, but it is not as extensive on Microsoft's. And so by killing or gutting their Game Pass plan now, they're losing that edge and they're giving consumers less reason to choose Xbox over PlayStation, for example. And PlayStation has been having a great year and a great past couple of years with the PS5. There's so many better games and have things like Spider-Man that people love. And a lot of people have been finding a much better experience on PlayStation. So one of the few things that kept people to Xbox is this Game Pass now. And Microsoft is completely gutting that edge. So I'm wondering what Microsoft's next plan is, what they're going to do next in order to make sure that consumers stay on their platform, not just for the revenue or their bottom line. Another thing that I haven't really seen touched upon is the risk of publishers or response from publishers. You see, publishers have already been complaining about being on Xbox Game Pass and how it's not as profitable and they're not selling as much games. And some have said that they sell more games off Game Pass than they do on Game Pass. But for a lot of these publishers, the incentive for them was that Microsoft was paying them huge contracts or giving them some amount of money to be on Game Pass, and they got more exposure from being on Game Pass so that the future games they made will be known by more people. But now that Xbox Game Pass has less users, that exposure benefit really isn't there. And if the profitability and exposure isn't there, a lot of these publishers don't have any reason to stick by it on Game Pass and can just go to somewhere like Steam and sell their game standalone, or just sell it on Xbox as a standalone component and make more money than they would on Xbox Game Pass. So the real question is, what happens now? Where does Xbox go? Or what's the next steps? I guess they have a few options to them. One could be that they double down on their big day one releases and their exclusives and make sure those games are good to justify the increase of Xbox Game Pass and to keep people on the Xbox platform. If things get bad, they could also roll out bundles, maybe Xbox Game Pass for a year for every new Xbox purchase, or they could do Xbox Game Pass for a few months if you use Xbox streaming, if other streaming platform is called. The next thing they could do is pivot away from Xbox entirely, or Xbox Game Pass model, and kind of be like a more third-party publisher, which is what I think they're kind of doing now by buying up all those studios like Bethesda and Activision Blizzard. But for the consumer, this will suck for a while, because if you are someone who plays regularly on Xbox Game Pass, it's going to be harder, especially if you're more financially constrained. But Xbox doesn't seem to really be concerned about that at the moment, and they're confident enough that enough people will stay for them to justify these price increases and to increase their profitability. I think the only thing we can do right now is just wait and see what the long-term impact of this is. Like right now, everyone's upset about the change and how it's more expensive, but that's more on the short-term scale. But for Microsoft long-term, we're going to have to see if this price change is worth it for them, if they're more profitable or their Xbox division is more profitable, or whether or not this will mark the start of the decline of the Xbox series or the Xbox platform permanently, and if consumers will find alternatives to Xbox that can really fill that void that Game Pass is leaving behind. But for Microsoft, this is definitely a big gamble, and they have to have real reason to justify this change. And I'm sure they do. I'm sure they're facing some financial constraints from all their investments, and Xbox as a platform, as a gaming division, is bleeding money for them. So they got to increase their profitability. But anyways, that's just my take. What do you guys think of it? Let me know what you think in the comment section. I would really appreciate it if you guys hit that like button and subscribe, and it really means a lot and helps me make more of these videos. But anyways, that's all I have to say today. So have a good day and peace out.